Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to AEW Dynamite, April 15th, 2020. This review for the show, I gotta say, this show is pretty damn solid. Now, it wasn't the best show in the world, but it was solid nonetheless. They had a really good main event for the AEW World Championship match, which I was very pleased with. And some of the matches were pretty decent. Others could have lived without, but they filled in the time that it needed to fill out a 2-hour show. So, I was very pleased with the show. I didn't have any gripes about it. I do wish that we had an audience, but of course, with this virus running around, it's not easy to do that. And we're trying to protect everybody from getting sick from this virus. And really sucks. Honestly, I really have nothing bad to say about it based off of what they had to work with. Starting off, we had Lance Archer versus Colt Cabana. Very good match to start off the show. Colt Cabana, I'm not a big fan of, but he actually did a good job in this matchup with Lance Archer. They work very well together, actually. So I was very pleased with this match. Lance Archer, of course, picked up the victory at the end. Hits the blackout for the victory and the 1-2-3. Then we get a segment with Brett Baker talking about, in a dentist's office, talking about the rules of being a role model. Always fight fair, as she refers to her fighting on despite Sheeta using dirty tactics that caused a deviated septum. Okay, yeah, that was really a fucking weird segment. Actually, that was the weirdest segment out of the bunch. Then we get a couple of opinions or predictions on the matchup for the World Championship. They spent a lot of time talking about the predictions from different people and who they think was going to win. John Moxley was pretty much picked by Taz and a few other people, while Jake Hager was the favorite to be chosen for this match to win. Now, I actually don't have any problem with them saying that because Jake Hager has a background in MMA fighting. He's also an MMA performer. So, I mean, he has skills. And he knows what to do in the ring and how to fight. John Moxley's more of a brawler, so the chances of the match that they were going to have wouldn't have turned out to be that way. I'm pretty sure in reality Jake Hager would have won this match, but Jake Hager was not the winner of this match. John Moxley was. So we get Brett Baker facing Cassandra Golden, who's a enhancement talent. She basically made Brett Baker look good, and Brett Baker finished her off in less than 3 minutes. And that was pretty much that. That match was not much of anything. Then we have a segment and a parody called The Bubbly Bunch. This was very funny. I actually enjoyed this. I'll say one thing about AEW, that WWE really has lost their way, and this is the only thing I'm going to bring up about WWE. AEW has really learned, they've actually become very comedic in some of their segments. I've loved it. And I see a lot of the comedy coming out with them since Matt Hardy came along. I don't think there was too much comedy involved in AEW too much until Matt Hardy did come into the AEW roster. And I'm happy Matt Hardy is on AEW. I think he's a awesome performer. I think he, at his old age, he has learned to be very creative. I don't care what he does in the ring at this point. As a person who's trying to be creative with his character, he stands out heavily. And I enjoy his shit. So let me go over a little bit of what happens during this Bubbly Bunch segment. Basically, it features the entire Inner Circle members hanging at their homes and talking to each other on the phone. Santana, Ortiz, and Santana actually rips on the Young Bucks. Jake Hager says he would destroy Kenny Omega and plans to beat the shit out of Jon Moxley and become the AEW World Champion. Chris Jericho then makes fun of Hangman Page for not being around. He says the Inner Circle will be enjoying a little bit of the bubbly soon enough. Jericho then has to go and talk with his assistant, then yells at them finding more toilet paper. Now, he actually, during this segment, Jericho, he's making himself breakfast. And, by the way, the breakfast looked fucking delicious. He was pouring himself some orange juice. And while he was talking to his comrades of his Inner Circle group, he pours half of the orange juice inside the cup. And the rest of the orange juice is on the counter. He's not even paying attention to where he's pouring the fucking orange juice. And he's just jabbing away on bullshit. That means absolutely nothing, and he's cooking breakfast and spilling fucking orange juice all over the counter. Now, granted, I know this probably doesn't affect Jericho's income at all, since a drop of orange juice on a counter can mean nothing to him. It's like a drop in a bucket, so it doesn't mean shit. But me being a middle-class citizen, I would be like, what the fuck are you wasting juice? You're putting it on the fucking counter. What the hell's wrong with you? You know, so I'm just like dumbfounded by that segment. I thought it was fucking funny as hell. Now we had Sug D, versus Sammy Guevara, which was pretty much a back and forth match, but Sammy Guevara wins. Sug D just made Sammy Guevara look good in this matchup to get him prepared for his matchup with Darby Allin next week. I believe that match is next week. So post-match, Guevara gets on the mic, says tonight was light work, and he could go another round. Guevara says he would. He says, "How about we just spoil the first round of the TNT Championship tournament? How about Sammy Guevara beats the shit out of Darby Allin?" Guevara then stomps away on Sug a bit more, but Allin runs out to the ring to chase him off. So that's pretty much that. I hope Darby Allin wins the whole tournament. I think he's the person that deserves to win the TNT Championship. But at the same time, when you're looking on the other side of the brackets here, Lance Archer, he's another one that probably could this title would be useful to him to build him up with the name and making him believable with Jake the Snake Roberts by his side as a manager. So I think at the end of the day, this would be an intelligent move. But because of how highly I feel about Darby Allin, I would want to put the title on him too. So it's very hard to decide which one deserves it more. I think it's more of like an even thing. So, I mean, you either choose Darby Allin, the guy who's been pushed heavily, or you go with Lance Archer and have him win the AEW World Championship. Now, there is another thing they might throw in here, and I think they're probably going to do this more than likely, which I really don't like, but I can understand it because they've been hinting this over and over again. Darby Allin may move on to face Cody Rhodes, lose to Cody, and then Cody faces Lance Archer in the finals, and Lance Archer beats Cody Rhodes 1-2-3. That's the other way I could look at it, and they're probably going to go that route, which kind of upsets me as well, because Darby Allin is yet to get a victory over fucking Cody Rhodes, and right now at this point, I think Darby Allin deserves it. So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure where they're going to go with this, but I know it's either going to be Darby Allin or Lance Archer. They're the only two guys that are worthy enough to carry that title at this point. So Kip Sabian goes one-on-one with Chuck Taylor. Penelope Ford is in Kip Sabian's corner. Orange Cassidy is in Chuck Taylor's corner. This match I could have done without. I really didn't care for this match so much. Kip Sabian actually does pick up the victory, thanks to the help of Penelope Ford with a very nice Hurricanrana from the top rope. I enjoyed seeing that. And then and then at that point, we see Kip Sabian rolling him up in a very fancy pinfall. And he gets the 1, 2, 3, and that's it. The rest of the match was very close with pinfalls and stuff like that. Jimmy Havoc actually had some point in this match of interfering and causing Orange Cassidy to fall off the apron and beat the shit out of him. So that match was announced later on in the show that those two guys are going to go at it one-on-one. Another thing is that Shawn Spears goes one-on-one with Justin Law. Justin Law loses, of course, to Shawn Spears, giving him more momentum. He has 2 wins now under his belt in a row. So kudos to him. And then Jon Moxley defended the championship against Jake Hager for the AEW World Championship in a no-holds-barred empty arena match. Now, I will go on to say this. The match started off very slow, and the way things seemed, it seemed like this was something deserving of a more fast-paced, vicious, violent matchup, and it turned out to be just one of those feeling out process type thing, and it just was more of a wrestling match more than anything else than a full-out brawl. As time moved on through the match, it did start to pick up and become more of a brawl. There was a lot of technical holds, such as arm bars, the fucking Jake Hager's maneuver where he actually puts, it's a triangle choke. It's not really a triangle choke. I'm trying to remember what the name of that move is. It's used all the time in mixed martial arts. But basically, he lifts his opponent's arm above his head, wraps his arms around his opponent's neck, and then applies pressure as much as possible to either make him tap out or pass out. So that was actually performed in the match, which Jon Moxley managed to get out of by a rope break later on in the match when this move was performed. Jim Ross, I didn't have any problems on commentary for this in the beginning. Outside of this match, the rest of the show was done by Tony Schiavone and Chris Jericho. And I will say this, Chris Jericho didn't seem like he was as good as he was last week on commentary. This week he seemed very out of place. He didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, hesitating on what he needed to say. He seemed like he lost some footing. Maybe he got a little too much drunk before the show. I'm not sure. I don't know, maybe he drank too much or something like that. Maybe he smoked a little weed. Who the fuck knows? Then again, who cares? But he was not as good as he was last week. I think last week Jericho was hitting on all cylinders last week. Tonight's episode, he wasn't that great. I didn't particularly care for him that much. But Jim Ross, he did a very good job on commentary for this matchup, for the main event. And they brawled around the arena for Daily Arena. I believe that's what they call it in Jacksonville for their Jacksonville shows. And yeah, they did some really good shit with one another. I'll just read off some of the stuff that was written down by Wrestling Incorporated. So like I said earlier in the match, it was a feeling out process. Neither really going for a major move. Moxley going for Hager's arm while Hager looks to focus on Moxley's torso. Hager gets sent out to the floor, and Moxley hits a big splash down on him. Moxley looking for a cross arm breaker, which actually was a very nice maneuver by Jon Moxley to perform that move. You don't normally see him use that move in any of his matches. Moxley throws Hager over the barricade. Jim Ross wonders why there's even a barricade if there isn't anyone here. That's a good point. Why was there? Moxley wraps Hager's legs around the metal pole by where it divides the seatings, divide the seats of where people sit, which I thought was very nice. It reminded me of Bret Hart and Ric Flair with the figure 4 around the metal post. And he yells for Hager to tap out, but he won't do it. Hager finally swings away to free himself. Hager walks his way back into the ring, dropping Moxley down on the barricade. At this point, things get a little bit more physical. They start doing chops. You see a lot of sweat flying off their bodies, so you definitely know for a fact they were connecting on these attacks, which I appreciate very much, that they were trying to put as much realism as they possibly could without hurting one another at the same time. Hager sends him back to the ringside, looks for a Hager bomb, nobody home, and Moxley with a running knee. At this point, when he did that running knee, you could tell that Moxley seemed like he might have injured his knee possibly, or was just selling it as an injury. Hager with a bunch of big clotheslines in the corner, but Moxley returns fire with one of his own. And Hager goes for a submission, but Moxley makes it to the ropes for a break. Hager with a couple punches that send Moxley out to the floor. Hager sticks a chair in the corner of the ring, and Hager looks to drive Moxley into it. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Moxley actually counters, throws Hager near the chair, charges in, Hager moves, and Moxley crashes into the chair while covering his head, limiting down the damage of what he would have occurred if he would have went full head first into the chair. So Hager goes for a cover naturally, just to see if he could get the win easily, and he does not. He kicks out at 2. Hager takes the chair and whacks Moxley's leg with it, then goes for the ankle lock. Very smart idea there. Go for the legs, then hit one of your finishing holds in the ankle lock. Moxley won't tap out though, yells for Hager to break his leg. He's not tapping. Moxley gets near the ropes, but Hager yanks him back. Moxley with a reversal, sending Hager out to the ring. He runs back in and goes right into a submission. Hager gets a wrist control for a moment, and they start throwing big shots in the middle of the ring. Moxley runs in and Hager hits a low blow. Moxley crawls over to the chair and throws it at Hager's face. Paradigm shift, cover, and the win, and the match is over. And that's basically it. This match was a solid match. Granted, it could have been a little bit more fast-paced. Again, it reminded me a little too much of Edge and Randy Orton, but a little bit more faster than... It was a lot faster than fucking Edge and Orton. But when people shit on Edge and Orton, I'm going to actually defend this. I'm not saying that the match was great, but when you really look at the bigger picture here for that match, just to go back on that, you're talking about a man who was out of action for 9 years, and they're moving around the arena in this small little performance center, and you're doing a lot of physical shit, and it didn't look like, oh, it was easy to deal with. And I guarantee you, anyone that shits on that match goes ahead and does what Randy Orton and Edge did. I will say this. You're a fucking idiot if you think you can handle what Edge and Randy Orton did to one another. They did some physical shit to one another, and it looked very painful. Now, if anyone wants to gripe about the tempo, I totally understand that. The tempo of that match was boring. It was. But you also have to look at the bigger picture why it was slow. The way they were doing it was running around the arena trying to perform a legit empty arena brawl. And the same thing applied here, only this one was a little bit faster. And the reason why is real simple. Hager and Moxley have been involved in wrestling for a while. They haven't taken 9 years off. Jake Hager has been away from wrestling. He's been doing MMA at least, but he hasn't been away from wrestling for 9 years. He was away from wrestling for what? Maybe actually being in a wrestling ring for like maybe 4 or 5 years possibly. I mean, come on. And he also did some matches outside of the WWE when he was released. So, I mean, you can't really shit on Edge and Randy Orton. I'm saying that because I don't think anybody's going to shit all over Hager and Moxley. And if you do, you're a fucking idiot. Because outside of the beginning stage of this match, there's really nothing to complain about here. This match was a solid, good main event for a televised show with no fucking people in it. I mean, if you put a crowd into this audience, actually have a crowd for this match would have been enhanced even more. Because you would have had that interaction from the crowd, and the people watching at home would have felt more energetic, more involved. Which is the bigger picture of what wrestling needs. Now, I personally think that anyone wants to shit on this match and say this match sucks, you're crazy. Now, if you want to just say that the beginning portion of the match sucked, I will agree with that. It did bring the quality of the match somewhat down. But then again, you can also appreciate what they were trying to bring to the audience. They were trying to bring a legit match. Trying to make it feel more sports-like feeling. Instead of going full in all the way into a brawl. And having chairs and all kinds of other shit. That they could have had in this match. You know, like tables and all kinds of other shit. They should have had that in this match. That's the one thing I will criticize this match for. Is that it wasn't as violent. It was physical. But violent, I wouldn't say it was too violent as the way Jon Moxley was trying to make it out to be. It looked more like your typical decent style match. That's really all I have to say on that. So anyway, guys, hit the like button if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below. I'll get back to you on that. And hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed to the channel. And I thank you very much for watching and have a great night, guys. Bye.